We're in Cheesman Canyon. We've been Euro Nymphing today, and I've got 5 tips for you to take out on the water next time. This is Russ with Umpqua Feather Merchants. We're on the Trouts YouTube channel. Check out these great tips. Tip number 1 is reading the water. And this may sound obvious, but really Cheesman has a ton of crazy currents in it, and it makes it so a lot of times what you think you're looking at and seeing isn't necessarily the case. You've got surface current, and then you've got a lot of subsurface currents as well. And those subsurface currents get pushed around in crazy directions, and those are going to move your flies in crazy directions accordingly. So you could have a lot of a lot of drag to your drift. And a lot of times fish will be positioned in different ways than you think that they should be, right? So a lot of times when we're fishing, either A, we're going to accommodate our drift and presentation to match these kind of crazy currents, or 2, we're gonna edit our water and look for water that has good consistent flow, even if it's in a short area. Number 2, we're gonna get deep. A lot of times when fish feel a lot of pressure in the canyon, they instantly just fall to the bottom, right? So if you can extend your leader and fish heavier flies, you can kind of track that, because a lot of times we'll see them down there and they're doing this and eating. We just need to be able to get our flies down to them and present deep. So I run a really long piece of level, thin tippet, which we'll talk about in a second, and then heavier flies to allow me to get down to those fish and still present to feeding fish that are way deep in the water column. Tip number 3 is going to be your tippet size. So in tip number 2, we talked about getting deep. One of the ways to get deep if you don't have really heavy flies is to use a thinner diameter tippet, because there's less drag on that tippet material as you're going down through the water column. And that's going to allow you to sink a lighter fly deeper. And a lot of times fishing a lighter fly means that you get a little bit more movement out of that fly than just a big bomb sitting straight underneath your cider material. So sizing down your tippet, not only does it help with some of those tricky fish, right? And that may be up here, but more importantly, what it does is it allows you to sink your flies with the same amount of weight, because there's less drag and you get caught in a lot of those currents. So our first 2 tips, the third one really is important, which is that tippet diameter. Number 4, don't be afraid to change your presentation. What that means is dead drift, dead drift, dead drift, dead drift sometimes works every time. But there are times where jigging flies and activating your flies or making them swing can be the really big trigger that those fish are looking for, right? Depending on hatch or just that individual fish, right? I do a lot of jigging in my flies. I'm pretty active. It helps me keep contact with that really long leader sometimes in some of those interesting currents. It helps pull everything tight and then relax again. And so I do a lot of jigging. I'm pretty active with it. And we had a couple fish today that wanted to eat on that presentation. And swinging your flies out at the end could be another great one, although we didn't have any takers on that today. Tip number 5 is be flexible. And what I mean by being flexible is today, in the middle of the day, we saw PMDs come out. Kind of crazy, but I was able to fish a dry dropper and convert fish that way, right? Instead of wanting to only fish nymphs deep with thin tippet, in complex currents, we got up to the surface level and we were able to get fish during a nice little window of activity on the surface, which was awesome. So really always have an open mind when you walk down to the water. Watch what it's telling you it wants to do and take that feedback and kind of roll it right in there. Hopefully these 5 tips bring you a little bit more success out on there, give you something new to try at the end of the day. Trouts Fly Fishing has all of the flies that I use from Umpqua in their bins, as well as that great tippet material to get down and deep. So make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you disagree with, what you do. We're all here to learn together, so dump your feedback in the comment section and stay tuned for another episode in the future. Thank you so much.